It's been a pretty busy week for me. You know how you go through your first part of the week and you're like, yo, I got X, Y, and Z I need to do. You kind of mentally calculate how much time you have to get things done. Because then on the other hand, you got stuff you want to do in your, free time. We always mark time to make money, resources, and things like that. But when you have that free time, what is it that y'all do with y'all free time? I know for me, I've literally been working on certain goals that stuck in my mind, since 2017. And as time goes on, and, for some of us, we're parents, and then we have jobs that we have to go to. And I think the biggest step is if you're going to work for somebody else and you're not working for yourself, do your best to work for a company or agency that matches your passion. And I didn't really think about this as clear as I do now. And for me, you go through the journey where you work to work. And most young people have an ambition to do a couple of things. Is to get that driving permit, get your driver license, get that first car, and then you start socializing and getting into life and things like that. But at a certain point, I think for me, it hit me in my late 20s, being a father. I really got to figure out what it is I want to do that's a passion for myself, as opposed to checking in from 9 to 5. You figure out, well, how can I find a job or a situation where it doesn't feel like work? It feels like you could accomplish something. You're accomplishing something, then you got plans and goals beyond work, right? So, with that being said, for me, when I started working with young people, in crisis, young people in juvenile settings, uh, young people in the prison system, young people in outpatient services, the first thing I realized that, they remind me of me when I was younger. And I wasn't as open to, authority figures. You dig what I'm saying? Being open to authority figures means you probably had a really good upbringing. You had authority figures that were open to you, authority figures that were genuine. They probably had an edge to themselves because of what, maybe they've been through it in life, right? And then for me, it just stuck. Like, bro, when you work with young people, you deal with crisis after crisis. Social workers, probation and parole, and you really want the best for young people in crisis. And half of that group are unreconciled. They don't know how to reconcile with themselves. So it's anger after anger. And then there's the other half that do want to make things right with themselves, right? Um, so I found myself right in the middle of it. Something kept saying to me, you need to do something with the experiences, not only that I had in my life, but the experiences I'm having with working with young people through crises, their own decision making. And then it's a triple thing because you got to work with their parents. And when you see parents that are going through something, sometimes they're not as present. And so when you speak to parents that have kids that have ongoing behavioral issues, um, you have to speak with empathy. You got to listen with empathy. You get what I'm saying? So I went through all of those phases. By the time I got out of that phase, I said to myself, man, this is a lot of work. So I had to ask myself, is this something I want to do long term? Um, is this something that I want to do um, until I retire? And I told myself, no, I don't want to do that. Well, until retirement. I just made a decision that's not what I want to do. So um, right now I'm in management, and management is multidimensional. I work directly with the res, and I work directly with staff members, supervisors, directors, and so forth. And what I was saying in the beginning of this video is what changed for you in your life? What is it that I don't know how to pronounce your name. Kai? Hey, primary. Listen, we're talking about what has changed for you in your life. And if things have changed for you in your life, when did you notice it? Okay, because a lot of us go through life and we just work and live on a routine. And I know for me, it's every week routine. Check my bank account, make sure the right amount of money is there. How much money am I going to put towards my savings? And what does savings mean to me? Does it mean I'm just saving just to save, or am I beginning to think about investing in something else? And just hold tight because this is about a spiritual journey for me. Transitioning from looking at the world anytime from survival, it's always the material world. If you live in a material world, you understand that at a certain point, matter based upon the law of this world is going to deteriorate. It's going to evaporate. So the first question for you is, what is it that's going to last in my life? Not only for materially generational wealth, but what's going to last from you on a spiritual level? What means something to you? And when you start thinking about that, how far into the future are you looking? How do you want your kids to see the world? You want the kid to see the world the way you saw it, or do you want them to see the world from a more deeper state? Why is that important? Well, not only do you have an emotional state that has to transitioning from seeing things from what the world has shown you, but now you have to transition to a world beyond the physical, the intentional world. So many of us are guessing about this life. When you guess about this life, you kind of go in circles. This person's saying this person's saying that. The world is presenting to you what should and shouldn't be. And that to me can be chaos. I know when I was in my 20s, everything reached its peak. And I went through a very, very intense mind shift. Some people call it ego death, but the ego doesn't die, it also transforms. How you see relationships from just being completely emotional, transactional, to very intentional and spiritual. I watched this video about 2 years ago, and boy, was that a tearjerker from the time it started to the time it ended. And there was a lady who said that she met a guy. She had the audience roaring. So he may have been 20 years younger than she was. So the ladies in the audience was like, "Roar." They clicked right away. I think she is Native American, Italian, and he was also Italian and Scottish. Both of them love art. They love to travel with each other and go to different places in the world together, and they have so much in common artistically. She had kids already. Her kids were grown, and the one thing he wanted in his young age was to have children. So she wrestled with this idea time and time again, and every blue moon she remind him that that's not where she's at. Stick with me. It's something I'm trying to build here. They both said that they loved each other. Of course, she wanted to be with him forever. He wanted to be with her forever. Okay. I'm gonna get to the comments in a moment, so give me a minute. Anyway, she was so articulate in how she was explaining their relationship. And when she explained that relationship, she spoke of it in such a very endearing way. Um, and he was equally infatuated and a more of a keeper mind state. They really want to be together. But in her mind, she got to a point when she was ready to let him go because she didn't want kids, and that's what he wanted. He wanted to start his life. She was at the apex of hers. Here's what she did. One day she was having coffee by herself, and she met a beautiful young lady. Young lady was very poisey. She had a whole lot of swag, very free. She had a really pretty hat on, nice dress. You know what this lady said to herself? She said that this young lady would be a perfect match for the guy that she's deeply in love with. Okay. Keep in mind, we're talking about passion here. We're talking about a passion that's not conditional. That's hard for a lot of people to love someone without conditions. I don't want to get into all the stuff people do when they come to the table. It's almost like a business meeting. Okay, here's what I got. Here's what you got. Here's what I'm willing to give up. Here's what I'm not willing to give up. Alongside of this list that they actually talk about, there's a whole nother list for both parties that they're not willing to discuss with each other. And these are called hidden intentions, right? Stay with me. So one day, her and the young guy sat down and were talking. And she said to him, you know what? I met somebody that would really be a good match for you. And he said, what do you mean by that? What do you mean that she'd be a perfect match with you? I'm in love with you. Here go that word love. Let me stick to the romantic side of it because I know a lot of y'all are like, what's wrong with love? I ain't say nothing about that. I'm just going to tell you how the story went. So in this story, she was able to get him to meet with this young lady. Oh boy, they had a long conversation, this young man, this young lady. And he looked back and noticed that the lady that he was with, who was 20 years older than him, she sat back and just looked like she was in bliss. So she got up and started walking away while those two were together. He said, wait, where are you going? Where are you going? She said, listen, this is what I want for you. Remember, this young lady doesn't have kids. She's at the apex of her life. She's dreamy, she's ambitious, and she's ready to experience the world. In my opinion, the way she described this young lady, just beautiful inside and out. So, this lady says she walked away. She was in so much pain, but she was happy for him. She didn't call him. She didn't email him. She didn't send him any letters. And she said that almost broke her. But she stuck to her intention for him to be happy. I think 6 months down the line, she said she got to the point where she dialed the number and then she hung up. Okay. I would say years passed and he called her and he invited her to one of his shows. He finally opened up his art business. Art business was booming. She said every single art, ambition, idea, and piece of art he showed her was in his gallery. She said when she walked in the room, their eyes connected the way they did when they first met, and that love was still there, right? As she moved closer to him, a young girl approached her and said, are you my fairy godmother? Now, keep in mind, this little girl had the same color hair as the woman that she introduced him to. So when she finally talked to the fellow, that was indeed his daughter that he had with the lady that um, she hooked him up with. And so the speaker said that was the most beautiful event and experience she had had in a long time because she loved this person, but she had her own intentions. Well, she wanted that seller got a groove back friendship. She knew it was selfish of her to put that off on him. He was ready for a family. At the end of that lesson, which was so penetrating, it was just real honest. And that's the point I'm trying to bring here. Like, how honest are we about what we want? And what you want, is it starting with somebody or is it starting with yourself? Primary, yeah, this is my first live. Hey, just asking. Appreciate you. Okay. So the question to y'all is, when was the first time you realized that change is going to happen? Change is happening whether you're ready for it or not. I think I was probably in my late 20s when it happened to me. Nothing worked anymore. I thought I was a flirt still. I thought I was a charmer still. I thought I was a ladies' man still. Literally couldn't speak. Couldn't have those smooth conversations anymore with people. I didn't know what was going on. I had sleepless nights. I never knew what insomnia was. I mean to tell you, not only was I up in the daytime, I was also up at night. I didn't realize what was happening. And from not realizing how the world works to beginning to realize exactly what this world is, it's a very, very vast impressionist. You know, what you hear from people, what you hear from entertainment, what you hear from other people, it's just their interpretation. It's not yours. So you got to get to the point when you say to yourself, what is this life for me? What does it mean to me? And then what am I going to do with what I'm beginning to understand? So some people join religion, some people join a certain cause because they want to go the second round to making meaning of life. So why don't y'all tell me, when was it? You don't have to say anything, but if you want to share, share. Did you realize that things are not the way they used to be? I got to make some adjustments. Yeah, that's facts. God is not playing with me anymore. And I don't wrestle people about their own concept about God. All I would say is the creative force, intuition, go left or right, is a light, green, yellow, red. All is happening inside of you. All of it's happening inside of you. Yes, it's cool to engage with other people about these things, but at the end of the day, when nobody else is around, you have to ask yourself, where are your thoughts coming from? And what is monitoring those thoughts? Okay. Um, I find it real interesting and how people live their life with each other. Um, in terms of having a relationship, you have to ask yourself which relationship is most important to you. Is it the relationship I have with others, or is it the relationship you have with yourself? Which one is primary to you? And if you're the primary person in that relationship you have with yourself, how is it going to benefit other people? Hmm. Yeah, every day is an adjustment. And what mantras do y'all use? Like, what thought process assists in maintaining, your spiritual sobriety? Because I know we all have days where I just don't want to think about nothing. I just want to kind of do me. I just want to chill. And those days are needed. For me, I'm a real avid book reader. They say when you do something for so long that you end up doing it yourself. And I know I mentioned this in the beginning of the live that in 2017, after all the experiences that I had, after all the encounters that I had, I started writing my first book. Yes. They say 21 is the age. You start everything on your own and having to think for yourself. And I don't think it's scary for everybody. I think everybody has their own reaction to having to do things on their own. Um, and when you make them decisions, though, they're impermanent decisions because you're going to get certain responses, certain reactions. But as you realize how impermanent our decisions are, you make what needs to work in the moment as you learn and you build upon that. Now, writing my first book in 2017 wasn't really about finances. It wasn't really about money or this and the third. It was really about I have a whole life of thoughts and experiences that have been in my gut, in my emotions since birth. And, the more we suppress our experiences in life, the more those experiences become our daily reality. If you have reactions to things when you're younger, young people do not have discernibility. They just have response. So as they get older, for every similar experience in life, even new experiences, they revert back to their original emotional responses. Now, as we get older, become adults, we typically don't become more sophisticated in emotional sobriety or emotional intelligence until we confront our emotional baggage. We still use all those responses and strategies, what I call symptoms of adaptation, survival skills to be able to relate to the world around us. Now, peep game, how we relate to the world around us are based on those primary experiences and emotions. So I know you guys have probably heard of adult children, adult relationships that are kind of like adolescent relationships. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but how you feel and how you are aware of your feelings determine the longevity of your relationships. Oh, I'm going to reveal that sooner than later, but it's already a finished product. I had it professionally edited and I end up doing more editing, but it is a special project because, again, I didn't write this book as a biography. I could have, but I didn't. It's a wealth of experience, knowledge, and insight about the reality around me. So when you go back and look at my shorts, that's a peek of what's inside the book. And I did try to do really, really well of breaking it down where it's not complicated. I don't have very many resources in the book. I, well, I have a few resources, but they are open domain. I didn't want to worry about no copyright. So the minute I put the book through U.S. copyright, I got my copyright certificate within 2 weeks, which means they found no plagiarism. They found no copyright issues. So I kept it real simple. But in my mind, I said, you know what? You know, that part of my life that I mentioned to you guys, for all of us, when did you realize things change? And I went through a very, very trying time because nothing worked anymore. I had to rethink my feelings. I had to rethink how I process reality. I had to rethink how to connect with other people. And that was scary. But one of the things I learned years on, and I think writing the book actually helped me get to this realization, is that change is inevitable. You're supposed to change. You're not supposed to be the same. You're not supposed to depend on stagnation as a comfort. You're not. I think the sobering reality is most people do. They never change. They're comfortable where they are. Has nothing to do with their financial situation. It has everything to do with the state of their spirit. When I talk about spirit, it's not about religion. It's not about not. Spirituality is about understanding the world of intention. The world of intentions. All of us have hidden intentions. All of us have unconscious intentions. And there are those of us who are actually beginning to observe our intentions. If you know how to observe your own intentions, guess what? You're getting really, really good at observing other people's intentions. Okay. And that's what I mean by don't be afraid to grow. We live in the reality where most beings that have, I would say, primitive consciousness, primitive ego, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I love animals, like I love dogs, I like cats. Well, they're operating on a very limited, restricted ego. In other words, they don't pass judgment, they just simply read energy as it is. No, we're not supposed to devolve to that level, but we have a level of superiority when it comes to intuition. And, you know, when you allow your intuition to expand, to grow, to develop, one of the biggest gifts you're going to get is to understand the concept of God, of the creative force, right? Within you, all right? That's when you start generating true happiness, true clarity, right? And all those voices in your head or that primary voice begins to make sense as to what it really is. That's you responding to you, the I and I. Okay. Let me take a look at the comments real quick. Uh, Just asking, can I ask you a question? What was life like at 21 for you? And I know for me, it was definitely rethinking my journey. Conversation changed, like I said before. Um, I wasn't able to communicate the way I did. I think what was really happening is the bullshit was leaving, and I was put in a position where I have to start being more genuine with myself to understand me more. Yeah. You know what, primary? I'm not thinking about doing Amazon right away. I'm doing my research. I think the best way to go is to build my own website because here's what I'm actually getting done. I'm going to be offering product, not just the book, but offering product. And I'm working on a few other things. I just uploaded my last short, the introduction of my brand, and I'm probably going to incorporate that into my videos and my lives and stuff like that too. And with that, it's going to be a code for book references. So I'm trying something brand new, but it's also part of me understanding what freedom really is. Because everything that we're doing, making money, making investments, things like that, I think the ultimate goal is to become like a child again in terms of being free to imagine, free to evaluate the world that we're in, free to evaluate the inside world. that we're all a part of too, right? The inside world is where all the magic happens, right? Like when you think about something, be careful about thinking on things that make you sad. Don't think on those things too long. When you dip back into your mind, the unconscious mind is where every experience that we've had sits there. And those experiences that are somewhat unsettling or may come up at times out of the blue, those are the ones that need to be reconciled with. You reconcile your emotions, you shift your reality at a more advanced rate. A lot of folks say, well, you know what, man, I ain't thinking about the past. Good for you. But the reality is, the shadow work is about, going back and rescuing your younger self, going back and consulting your younger self. Yo, everything is cool. We got that fixed. This is why this happened. Let me take your hand. Let's move you back into the present. Because sometimes that younger version is still stuck in the place where you last left it. So realizing that you exist, all versions of yourself exist right now. Some of them are stagnant, some of them are present. So it's all about understanding self. So when you understand where you're at with everything, you can make present decisions. You meet new people, you have to ask yourself, is that the present version of you that I'm connecting with right now? Now, people speak in two different languages: circular, where you've already heard it before, or you know what, this is intriguing. This is leading me down a straight line where I have the option to understand from another perspective. That's how you know somebody is present. Speaking in terms of encouraging you to think beyond your norm. All right. Busy working and doing school. Didn't have time to think. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's 21 years old, all right. Yeah, carefree, working on making things happen. That's why folks who, make things happen and focused. Busy working, yeah. You probably had your own car, driver license, insurance, wasn't riding dirty, was a person in the group that was probably more responsible for the clique. Everybody called you for advice. Hey, come hang out with us. And then, yeah, that's what I call leadership, being a leader. Yeah. Well, let me do this. I want to dip into something a little bit more deeper, um, and ask everybody, where do you think your mind is? Where's your mind at? um, this is probably going to be a regular thing now. You're going to start talking about that inside person. Where's your mind? Is it in the skull with all the lipids and proteins and salts? Where's your mind? Bought the car at 23. That's what's up. Your mind is wherever you want to be. If you're in one spot, but your mind is elsewhere, where your mind is in two places at once. And when you start making decisions in that place in your mind, whether you're over there or you're over here, the place where you're now deliberating on, problem solving, making intentions, that's where your mind is at dominantly. Um, Look, I'm not a people watcher, but I work in a big organization. Today I had a meeting. We had one of the CEOs. She was so cool. One of her biggest flexes is she would laugh. She knew she had a sense of humor, and she would say, "It's gonna be all right. Just do what you gotta do." Anyway, this is her last week here, I think. Notice went out probably 2 weeks ago, and we were just there to celebrate. I wish we could have done more for her, but when leadership transitions, it's definitely you're gonna have a little loss. It's gonna be a little loss there. But as I looked out into the crowd and we all had lunch and stuff, I'm just looking at people um, trying to relate to each other. I know Johnny Depp said something a while back. He said, "Oh, how many of y'all know who Johnny Depp is?" Primary said, "I notice I absorbed a lot and learned to release daily, something we carry. Sometimes we carry things that are not ours." Yep. Oh, that's daily. Um, Primary. That's man. That's every day. And that's why I asked the question of, um, where is your mind? I know when meditation kicks in, everybody has their own experience in meditation. When you start the process of meditating, right? Somebody said that I'm gonna tell you about my experience. I'm gonna tell you what they advised. And the way this person advised how to meditate, he was teaching a way to manifest, to better manifest, to manifest more accurately. And it works. I'm gonna tell you his way first, and I'm gonna tell you what I experienced. He said, close your eyes, don't try to do anything. Just observe. You're gonna hear all the noise that you're not conscious of because you gotta survive. Once you silence yourself and you observe the noise, observe all the interactions, don't do anything. Just let it play. And I don't know if some of y'all, like me, I grew up where you have and you have not. And we have the old school TVs where when it comes midnight and the national anthem goes off, all you see is like flakes in the screen. It said when you get to that point, your channel is beginning to clear. Once your channel clears and everything is blank and it's what we call infinite silence. He said, go into your memory and pull out an apple. The reason why it's 100% credible for you to pull out an apple is because you've already eaten one before. So the first apple you ate, your memory took photos of it. Peep game though. Your memory took photos with your five senses. So guess what you can do in meditation? You can command your five senses to do a repeat. That means that you could sense the apple, see the apple, taste the apple, hear the apple. Now, in this meditation, you eat the apple. And as you eat the apple, you see it becoming less and less of flesh, and you see the core. Now, when you see that down to the core, put all the flesh, color, and everything back on an apple as though you didn't eat it. This is how powerful your mind is. And that example is how you go back in your mind and address old stuff. Because if you can remember and your memory by your command can pull up something, it could also pull up a past experience. Now, shadow work is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the person that's rushed in life. It's for those who said, you know what? Now that you're finding that solo time, it's really time to start benefiting off of that. So when I did the meditation, let me tell you, now the first time you do that sample, you just reset your mind. You just reset your memory. So instead of your memory talking to you at random by experiences, old experiences or random, it could be meaningless stuff. All of this is compounding in your mind, but most of us suppress it because we think survival first. Now, once you reset You just told your memory that you're now supervising it. You're now aware of it. And the more you work on that, your memory begins to silence itself and allow you to command it. So I know when I got back out here in the Midwest, I was working as a CO for a correction institution. I didn't mind it. I mean, I liked the work, um, but I was trying to get into case management again. In this field, case management is parole, probation, and parole. And here's what I did. The night before, I did the meditation, but instead of putting an apple up, I visualized the parole office. I visualized the academy, and I didn't, when the visualization got in motion, it literally did the rest for me. I saw people in there. I didn't look at the whole background, but there was key people in there that I saw. And this is when we talk about faith without works is dead, right? So once I went to sleep, I would I would say that probably shortly thereafter I went into a deeper meditation. When I went into the vision, um, I was walking into the probation office, parole office, went into a room to the left, and there was several people there. Do you know the next day while I was at work taking my lunch break, I got a call because I had applied for the job. Got a call. They say, "Yo, this is so and so, so and so." I said, "Yeah." "Hey, this is so and so from Department of Corrections." I said, "Yeah." Well, we got your application. We want you to come down and do an interview for parole. Got the date, did the interview. There was one person on the panel that I saw in that vision. Now, had the first interview, had the second interview, and then I got offered the position. I walked in that parole office. um, there were two faces that I saw in the vision. Now, I'm not astonished. Had I not done the work prior to done the self work and then working on the meditation, I would be astonished, but I wasn't, right? But I was 100% grateful because now I know first and foremost that meditation works. And what meditation does, it take you to your higher version of yourself. What is the higher version of yourself? That's the I am that I am. That is the miracle worker. That is the I that sees in no time. See, a lot of us struggle with decision making or trying to make things happen because we keep thinking that we're stuck in time, right? You're not stuck in time. If you see a future event because you want that future event, right? And you're penetrating your assumptions. You're going beyond assumptions into your desired outcome. And in that meditation was my desired outcome. If you do the meditation right and when everything says done and done, um, just know that that reality is about to manifest. It's no surprise. Now, when you read the scriptures, please remember to take your intentions because um, you're actually going to start making things happen. Okay. Hey, you got to have money in order to enjoy yourself at the beach. All right. You can't just have today money at the beach. You got to have tomorrow money, next day money. That's what helps a person enjoy their time at the beach is because you're not running from reality, right? dealing with reality face to face. Yeah, I've had times where I can go because I've been on the West Coast. I love the West Coast. When I go to the beach, I go to do one thing: sun gaze. That's why I go to the beach. If I'm with somebody, you know, female or whatnot, that's her thing to say, hey, she could be blissful into her, whatever, whatever. That's her. I'm a protector by nature. So I want to make sure everything's straight. And then when I get into my meditative state, that's all about trying to see beyond the veil for me. Envision your book becoming a better. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I think for me, the biggest part is I envision people reading the book and having those aha moments where whatever blockages they may be having, I wrote the book in such a way where you begin to have multiple events where blockages are disappearing. And getting rid of blockages, which a lot of times are barriers that we place on ourselves, either out of fear, shame, or just not knowing. So reading the book as I wrote it, you know, I have to step back away from it, come back brand new in my mind as though I never read it before, and making sure that it's clear enough, but inspiring enough to, you know, thinking, inspire someone to think beyond their situation. Because, you know, in reality, a lot of us are stuck in situations, even if just self-perception or stuck in terms of seeing the world the way everybody's seeing it, as opposed to learning how to see the world from your own individual perspective. Yeah, audible for the lazy. You know, my son told me that, and a few friends told me that. I'm an old school dude. I like reading actual books, you know, and you know, when people read books, they're training their mind to pay attention. They're training their mind to travel. You should be able to actually connect with the spirit of a person's book. In other words, you're actually merging with their spirit. You're contacting and connecting with them when you read their information. Look, we do this all the time on social media. It's just that the social media is not geared to individualize and specialize in, you know, certain content for certain group, because everybody ain't gonna mesh with all the content on social media. You know, when I start scrolling through social media, I have to stop myself and say, hey, make sure you're aware of what you're seeing, what you're hearing. And I think that is so important for everybody nowadays, to have intentional relationships. You know how scary that is, to have an intentional relationship with someone. And the next question is, whether we want to realize this or not, all relationships, intimate relationships, have the potential to be mirrors for each other. Because everything I can't see about myself that I haven't worked on, the other person is supposed to see it. I mean, I know this happens because, you know, people have relationships where they random relationships or whatever, and they take advantage of each other. What I see, you don't see about yourself. That might be my way to do this and do that, vice versa. But understanding how the mind works, how the emotion, people are literally telling us what their intentions are. Gate. And while I don't really focus on that very much, is you have to ask yourself, what are my intentions for me? When you get up every day, what are your intentions for yourself? What are you trying to do today? Not tomorrow, but today. What do you want to accomplish? And if you don't accomplish all of it, that's okay. But how long did that thought of accomplishing a certain goal stay with you? Because if the thought stays with you regarding something you want, it's going to shift how you communicate with other people. It's going to shift your tone of voice. It's going to shift your ability to be patient to hear what someone's saying. It's going to shift your ability and how you deal with people. Because I still, to this day, in the field I work in, I could deal with somebody who could be real cool today and be off the chain tomorrow. And I have to know how to adjust in order to help them recenter. And what about you? Do you know how to recenter yourself? How to reconstruct your intention for the day, even though you're halfway through your workday or you at 10 o'clock a.m. when you came in at 7 a.m. And like I work with so many people that don't know how to do that. I can literally observe people go from one state of stress and anxiety to the extreme, then come back as though they don't know what just happened. And I literally have to sit there as the observer and try to support. I'm not even talking about um, the clients we work with. I'm talking about staff, professionals, right? And if I'm on the site for so long, when I get back in my truck and I head towards the highway, I'm like, yo, whoo. But I just took in a whole lot of intel about that person, if you get what I'm saying. So it's so much we gotta be able to be in tune with ourselves. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Sometimes primary, you just gotta let it be and be confident that you've done it before. Your resets. Sometimes you can reset so well and so routinely that all you gotta do is just breathe and it'll be reset for you. You've already done the work. You know what I mean? That's what I have to do. Like today it was busy. I got back home because I hybrid work and I sometimes I go into the offices in the field. And like tonight I had to knock out a few things. My deadline is usually the 30th of the month. I gotta present graphs and percentages, and between that time, I gotta meet with my team. I gotta encourage the team. I gotta model and train teams and help them stay on board. But I'm always seeing numbers fluctuate because the numbers reflect people, reflects their attitude, it reflects their ability to stay on focus, right? It, it affects their ability to move from one level of professionalism to the next. And while I'm evaluating that for them, I still gotta do that for myself too. Yeah. 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 Well, everybody has their own version of what that means, professionalism. You got to create your own version of what that means. And when you create your own version, like for me, how much BS am I going to take from people in a professional environment versus, how can I reverse the behavior and teach a new skill to somebody I work with? Because most people primary are impulsive. They need to fix right now. Some people like drama. Some people like to talk about each other, but they wonder why the environment in which they work is chaotic. I might work with a gang of chaotic clients, but that's the job. And the reason why, people, you know, get career started in that type of work is because you got a model for your people you're serving. If they don't see calmness and calculatedness in you, well, if that's a skill set they never learned, you might be the first person teaching them that. I hate to say this, but that's even in our personal relationships. There's always a leader in the group that may not announce leadership, but their behavior pretty much speaks to leadership. Being calculated, being fair, firm, and getting stuff done. Yeah. Yep. So we're almost at our hour. That was my goal for the day. But again, I want to go back to that question. How conscious are we? How aware are we in knowing where our mind is? You know, I do a lot of sit down running numbers, chasing numbers, fluctuation in numbers, and things like that. I feel like I have ADHD because if I'm creating a figure, the rationale for the figure, I don't want to leave until I come up with a number. Because if I get up, I'm probably not going to come back right away. So, because my mind is on something else. So, yes, it's a challenge to do one thing at a time, but I want to do so many things and get stuff done. So, I have to be in a meditative state to focus on one thing at a time. And then once I'm done with that, I'll move to the next thing on point with it too. So that sounds like my social work. Yep. Um, well, for sure. I did social work for probably 2 years, and it was pretty chaotic. Yeah, I would never want to be a social worker anymore. I did investigations though. I would never want to be a case carrying worker. I don't want to do none of that no more. Yeah, my next goal is networking and building the brand and, you know, just working on being a creator for the most part. Hmm. Yeah. So with this being our video, I think primarily I'm here for the whole way. Appreciate you. What can we talk about? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce Jensen. Is it Clay? But it sounds Indian or Arabic. Khai. Kha. Is that the way you pronounce the first name? Hi, back to you. What we want to talk about? Primary, I know we did a video or live about unconditional love. Is that what we did? And I did a short on I'm everybody wants to talk about relationships, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And to me, I just feel like that's like getting stuck. When the ultimate goal is, do your relationships help you evolve? Do they help you grow from where you were to the next version of yourself? Oftentimes, when relationships go south, nobody wants to take accountability. And then when you're single, is when you reflect on what could have been done better in the relationship. But here's my question. How come we don't do that in the relationship? Why don't we reflect in the relationship? Do we devalue relationships sooner than we value them? Do we get bored? Oh, primary. I think we should connect and do a video on who gets bored in a relationship first, women or men. And before that, even you let the idea get into your mind, um, what do you think? Do you think men get tired of relationships quicker or do women? Because you know the person that gets tired of a relationship is always going to figure out a way to get out of that relationship. All the good, bad, and the ugly of it. Yeah, the lives are consistency. I just have to make time and, doing videos, doing lives is really about a little bit of planning. I don't like doing things spontaneously. I really want to have a focus and a point. So I thank everybody that popped by and stayed with me. Primary, thank you so much. So I appreciate you. I you stayed in for a while. Is it KIA or is it KLAH? Yeah, Jensen, I appreciate you too. Okay. Anyway, it's about that time, y'all. Thank you so much. I'll probably upload it, jump on live probably by the end of the week or Saturday at the most. So look forward to them videos. If you already subscribed to the channel, just check your notifications and stuff like that. I think YouTube might be working better, even though it have a gang of glitches. And sometimes I can't even respond to folks who send me comments because, you know, YouTube is not allowing me to add comment. But anyway, I'll figure that out at another time. Thank y'all so much. And I will talk to you guys again really, really soon.